right. We are definitely live. All right, folks, I'm live with Zach Kuper, the Zapper from S&K Construction and Remodeling. Zach, how's it going today, man? We just had a consulting session. We're building some Google advertising campaigns, but how's it going today, man?
It's going really good, Mike. It's been a great lesson with you today. I've accomplished a lot of good goals and how to move forward, get quality leads, and that's been a very fortunate thing, and I'm blessed to have you on my team, man.
Hey, I'm blessed to be working with you. You've
Yeah,
done so much. Plus, you're building a home, right?
yeah, that's
How many
correct.
square feet is that home?
The addition of it's about 3,500, pretty sizable.
You know, I got scared the first time I walked those steps up to the second story. Like,
Yeah.
people don't know this. I'm a little afraid of heights, but like I walked up there and I got to see everything they were installing, that big room in the front. That was so cool. Plus, you did a whole lot of work on your house this past week. What all did you get done?
We got a lot of plumbing done inside of it, the electrical. So now we're going to focus on the insulation and get the drywall up and try to button her up before the cold weather hits.
Yeah, you have a goal. You told me your goal is to put a big old giant Christmas tree in there for your girls before Christmas, right?
Yeah, that is my goal. I'm working really hard to achieve that.
All right. So Zach, take us back to the beginning. How'd you get into the business of roofing? Like, how did this start? Was it always roofing, or were you doing something else before you got into roofing?
No, I was roofing at a young age. I was like 18, fresh out of high school. And there's a guy local in our town. So I joined on, really liked it, liked working outside, kind of the hard work. So it became fun to me. And then eventually I started working for a guy doing some sales, kind of learned the process of how to, put everything together. And then I stepped out and went on my own, started from the bottom. I was actually on my own crew with my own guys. We were installing the roofs. And then we just started growing, creating a decent name, and it just elevated to this level of where, now we got a team of 3 sales reps, a general manager, an office personnel, and a couple crews. So, fortunately we just scaled our way up, and we're trying to keep going and more.
So Zach, you're not one of these marketing companies, that just knows how to sell and market stuff. You are actually on the roof. Like you understand flashing. You know how to take care of the installation. You know what ice and water is and how to flash out a valley, how to flash out a chimney. Like, you're actually good at this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, when we did it, like I said, I was personally installing them. We'd valleys, ice guard, you name it. Crickets, flashing. Yeah, we did it all. It was so I felt like that helped too. It made it a little easier to overcome the sales. Not only did you learn the objections, but when you actually know how to put it on, it makes it easy to identify things, come up with solutions for the problems, and know what you're selling too, which is nice too. So you don't end up in a corner and selling something you can't back up.
So how long did it take you before you kind of got your legs under you and you were selling and you started bringing people on? You've had some people come and work with you and sell with you. How long have you had that system set up?
Probably like 7 years now. The first few years I would sell it, install it on my own, leave the job for an hour or two, go bid on a job while I had the crew come back, help them finish it up. And then we'd move on to the next one, which was really fortunate, and obviously we were doing a lot smaller, but we were still knocking out a roof a day usually. But it was, yeah, about 5, 7 years ago, it finally took off enough to where we were achieving about 2 roofs a day.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, not too bad, right?
That's real good, actually.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. When we started working together,
Yeah.
what was your sales team like? The sales team, what were they like before we started, just like right before we started working together? And how would you describe the transformation that's taken place with your sales team since we started working together? Since I became your consultant, since we started working together, how has your sales team transformed?
Oh man, upside down, 200% different. I can't even say 100. Before, I mean, I'll admit we had kind of a broke process. My goal was, oh, you can sell. Here's a book of Owens Corning. Here's a sample. Good luck. Go hustle for me. Which, I mean, honestly, probably wasn't the right way. But with you in place, we were able to determine the type of personality you're dealing with, how to overcome it. And the most important thing is, as everybody knows, the sales is up and down, right? So the most important thing was we were able to show the salesman how to control their mind, right? Because if you're not in control of yourself, you fall off, right? And so that was really important too, because as you know, one day, you have the best sales of the day, and then you don't have nothing the next, and that can really deter you mentally. So being able to show these guys, hey, this is what you need to do to get your mentality, your mind right, be the best form you can be when you go to sell, that was really very beneficial as well. So not only did we teach them, hey, this is who you're identifying, this is how you need to be able to overcome this person, this is their personality. We also were able to control our personality, which is just as important in my opinion, you know?
Oh, that's a big thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that's excellent. Can you think of or can you share any specific wins that your sales team has had recently that you don't think would have been possible back in the old days before we started working together? Like, what have they been able to do that they weren't able to do in the past?
Well, again, back to the identification of the characters, especially, when I speak with Harry, it's almost like when we talk, he goes, yeah, for example, that was a prize frame. He's like, so when we talk, he lets me know how the customer was behaving. So I'm like, oh, I know what kind of guy you had today. So it's really nice that we're able to determine who we were dealing with, and so I would say that's really key because, again, Mike, if you don't know, the better you can control something as far as who you're dealing with, how to deal with them, it's easier to overcome and earn their trust, right? So I
Yeah.
think that was huge, man. You know,
You brought up Harry. Who is Harry for the people that don't know S&K? Who's Harry and what's his job?
Harry is like my general manager. He's basically the next guy in charge. He helps me facilitate and run everything as far as scheduling, booking, and he even steps out and does sales. So he's really been a nice asset and benefit to me. I mean, he keeps everything in line.
Yeah, shout out to Harry, right?
Absolutely, big time.
Zach, one of the things that I love about you, man, you've always been willing to invest in advertising. You've never been afraid of it. I mean, we're talking 5, 6 figures in advertising every month. What's the
Mhm.
biggest difference you've noticed in how effective those advertising dollars have been since we started working together?
Well, it's definitely narrowed down all the way from, buying, like you said, realtors not really looking for a purchase, how we were able to categorize, homeowners, different people that are really interested in your ads, narrowing down, the keywords that are really the most powerful and relevant to our situation. So it definitely makes a more quality lead, which is more, better dollar to your company, a more qualified lead for your sales rep, which also gives them more confidence than, when they get a pile of leads and the customer tells them they're not ready for 2 years. Well, they get a little deterred, right? So it's definitely made it a lot stronger, a lot more qualified, and which in turn, makes the salesman or woman, as makes them try harder and be more efficient because when they go to the door, they know there's a good chance that it's going to happen, right?
Yeah, we've done something together that I haven't done with any of my other clients, and that is I've kind of I peeled back the veil, I've opened the door, and I've kind of let you in on the inside secrets of the advertising and marketing world. And you're actually a really good student at it. I mean, we were just working on an advertising campaign, and you were already 2 steps ahead of what I was trying to tell you to do because you've been working on this so much. What's that been like to learn the inside world of advertising and marketing?
Oh, it's extremely exciting, Mike. Like I was saying, we brush up on this. I took so passionate to it because a lot of guys, that don't know how to marketing, including myself at one point, you get taken advantage of by so many different companies. Oh, we'll provide you these leads, and they're usually typically outbound and there's 3, 4 other contractors. So you're
Yeah.
fighting, it's a race to the bottom, right? And you're just spending endless money just to stay afloat. And it's extremely stressful. So with this, I was in control of my destiny. I was able to fulfill everything, really be in sight what was going on, get what I needed and wanted, because obviously I was, trained by you in that regard. So it's been a 360 game changer. I mean, at this point, I would rather door knock than go do a shared lead, especially after I've been spoiled from you learning the ins and outs. So I don't think I would ever go back to a shared lead. I'd get my knuckles hurting before that, you
Yeah,
know?
well, I didn't want to do it, but you came to me and you said, listen, Mike, this is what I want to learn. I'm willing to pay for it. What's it going to take? And I'm like, well, I don't do it for anybody. Like, I do it for my platinum, my oldest consulting client, which is Kevin Burrell, Melissa, David Mathis. Hey guys, shout out Burrell Roofing, Atlanta Market. And
Yes.
for my friends, Jeremy and Christy Chappell out in Midland, Texas. So I don't touch advertising campaigns for anyone except for those guys. But you said you wanted to learn the ins and outs of it. Like you wanted to be able to get in there and get your hands dirty and do it yourself. So that's what we've done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
I've held nothing back from you. I mean, every week we bring a new lesson and dude, you're just like, I can't say the specific results that you're having. I don't want to give away any trade secrets, but like, have you been happy with the results you're getting?
Oh, Mike, I mean, at this point, it's even if I didn't believe it, it's women lie, men lie, numbers don't, and the numbers are proving where we're standing. So I can't deny what it's saying, so it's been tremendous. It's been a huge turnaround. And it's just, now you've got me so trained. Well, it's almost like when these other guys are talking about SEO, this, that, and the other, you can really cite them through and see, yeah, they're just, BSing you a little bit. So it's really nice because like I said, I mean, you go to the school of hard knocks and you go with all these outfits that, oh, we'll do this for you, we'll do that. And then it's just a fulfillment of broken lies and promises. So it really stings. So yeah, I would say it's been awesome. Ain't nothing more qualified. It feels better, right? It's almost like we're going out, catching our own dinner and bringing it home too, So it's like really nice. Like then when the leads come in, it's a little bit more personal because it's like, wow, I actually got that phone to ring. It kind of feels really nice.
You've done a good job. You've done everything I've asked you to do, and you've done it diligently, and you're seeing the results. And like we were talking earlier, I don't want to go catch anything. I just want us to go back to the Cattleman Steakhouse in downtown Fort Worth at the Stockyards and just eat another steak. How about we do that instead?
Yeah, yeah, I love that.
Well, not everything that we've done together has been advertising and marketing. Not everything's been
No.
team development. We've really worked a lot on like leadership and management techniques.
Mhm.
How has your day to day changed as the owner of your company since we've started implementing some of these management strategies and techniques and the mindset that we've been working on?
Well, as we went through the first little course together as, learning to be a better leader and, fulfill better opportunities, learning how to hold your men more accountable when you get in them vulnerable moments where you just kind of want to turn your eyeballs and you shouldn't, learning how to practice to say no, as you say,
Good practice.
especially after that lesson, I just found the first guy and had to tell him no, you know, and he probably was like, what is this guy talking about? But, I just like, I got to do it. So it's been really, helpful. It's also changed my character as an owner, maybe sometimes to gain a little more patience in times when it's needed, and also to hold people to a finer line when things are out of line, like you said, Mike, to recite it. Tolerate more, make less, tolerate less, make more. And it's just, that's such a true statement that it's ingrained in my mentality for the rest of my life because it really is. I mean, that one right there sticks to me the most, because your culture is what you create and accept, and that's,
Unfortunately, you've had two or three people, guys, that you've had to draw the line with.
yeah,
And that wasn't an easy thing to do. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that's like as an owner?
yeah, absolutely. Especially when you're a small outfit, you kind of get close to these people and there's a fine line, right? I mean, it's sometimes hard not to. You guys are working in the same environment, same walls. And then, sometimes we outgrow one another personally and professionally. And when you have to hold them to that, and sometimes you need another guy like you that kind of wakes you up, smell the roses and see the coffee that, hey man, that if we want to get to another level of location, that they're not ready to go with you.
Mhm.
And they're comfortable where they're at, but you're not comfortable where you're at. So that was also a big benefit too. Sometimes as you grow and you get to that next level, the next person's not ready to take it with you, became
Unfortunately.
complacent, you know,
Yeah.
complacency kills you.
Zach, that your team's doing today without you having to stand over them and push on them? Can you think of anything your team's doing today without you having to like just kind of be there to prod them that makes you proud as a leader? That's not how my team used to work, but today they're really taking on a lot more responsibility.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, since we've, proper sequence matters, right? So since we've really developed the system and you stay to that structure, I mean, it just makes it more easier for me as an owner too, to get a little peace of my mind. If I step away for a day or two, I know that it's going to be structured, ran right. I don't have to, shoulder over my phone every second and wonder what kind of disaster am I coming home to, which before, might have been that kind of system, where you kind of have that. And then, it's like you get bit by the snake once, so you're hard to let go. So you're always nervous when you step away and you want to step into it. But at some point, comfort comes from, you got to get uncomfortable to grow. And you have to trust your people. And like we were saying, what do you trust? What don't you trust? And what are you tolerating? So it's really nice. For example, when I came down for you in Texas, again, another shout out to Harry and everybody on the team. Mike, when I was with you, I wasn't worried one time, man, and that was really nice. I knew that Harry's going to keep this boat running in the waves, whether it's 5-foot waves, flat as glass, he has it,
Yeah.
and the sales reps are trained well enough, shown well enough that they don't really need my hand to be held either. So that was really nice, man, and maybe 2-3 years ago, Mike, that might not have been the case.
Well, I also really enjoyed you being able to take off to Disneyland with the girls. Like you bought fast passes, you guys went to SeaWorld, you did the Hollywood Walk of You were gone for several days, man. You're having a good time out there, weren't you?
I was, man, and that was nice. I actually got to step away, enjoy life a little bit with my family. Everybody home. Shout out to all my workers. Did what they were supposed to do and held everything accountable. So that was really nice. And just it felt like you could actually enjoy life and breathe a little bit. So I would say, yeah, we've definitely changed, grown. Everybody, especially on our sales mics, looks forward to your trainings. It's just very critical, right? Like I feel like, especially if we're not always trying to learn, we're dying, right? Or if you just become arrogant and you don't want to learn more, times are evolving. You need to get better as an individual, as a company. So you always need somebody to come in and show you something you don't know, right? I mean, it's very nice. It's refreshing.
Takes a lot of humility to say that, Zach. Something that's in short supply in our industry, humility.
Yeah.
And I admit it takes a lot of humility for me to hold this position because I realize I'm dealing with people who've spent their life building their business and they've got many families counting on them and depending on them.
Hmm.
Looking back, what do you think for you has been, and take a second to think about it if you need it, but
Right.
what do you think's been the biggest mindset shift that you've had since we started working together? What's revolutionized the way you think about your business
Hmm.
and has changed, the way S&K does business?
Well, obviously it starts with me too. So that's an awesome question because I could really get into this one. Well, it started with me before, like we always talk about, when you want to grow and develop before, you kind of hold the everything at rein and at bay because you're scared, right? Am I going to fail if I take it and branch out? You get nervous, because it's like, what if this doesn't work? It's not going to, because you work so hard to get to this level. And then your mind almost stunts itself because you're like, well, I worked so hard. I'd hate to see it stop here and have to get a job and fail. But with you, you geared me to the mind, if we want to get there's devils at the details at every step. So if we want to keep growing, unfortunately, we're going to have to get a little uncomfortable every way to get comfortable. And that's really helped me, because before I'd get a little nervous, and I just, overthinking's expensive, right, Mike?
Yeah.
And,
Overthinking will kill you, won't it?
and that was probably one of my personal drawbacks as, a roofing contractor was the overthinking, man. Like you get scared, and especially when you work so hard to get to the top, unless no matter what, it's hard to get there and even harder to maintain it, so you just, again, Mike, with you there, I just, broke through that. You got to get through that phase, man, and just trust the process and keep pushing.
Yeah.
And that was hard for me, man. That was probably my biggest, when I first met you, that was my hardest thing, was overthinking. Like, I mean, I hate to say it, scared money don't make money.
Yeah. I've heard you say that before. It's true.
you know
Zach, well, let's think about this. You've added over $1 million in revenue from what you were previously doing, and
hmm
you had a significant price increase because when we looked at your margins from the year prior, man, the margins just weren't where they needed to be. So
no.
you've raised your prices quite a bit. You've made a lot more money, we're running more money through the bank. Like, has that been nice? Has it been
Oh,
nice to raise your prices?
absolutely, man. I mean, unfortunately, inflation always concurs, right? So that's another thing too that I could say, that you've really honed in my mentality. There's always competition everywhere, but I've kind of just learned to be in it with myself, because when you're giving stuff away at a lesser value, really you're just hurting your own self and your own team. So it was a little intimidating when you and I went over that lesson, because we did have a significant increase in our price, right? But before, it's like, you got to sustain, as you always talk about, hit your dime. And you have to have that mentality, because if not, when them cold winters happen, it's uncomfortable. So, and here's the thing, Mike, since our increase, it's like we're not out of line, we're still in a fair market, still at a reasonable rate, and we're still earning the same business. So it did nothing but benefit us. So I guess my biggest thing is that I could share to anyone else is, if your numbers aren't where they're going to be, you're still going to sell something, raise the price, raise
Yeah.
it. I mean, you got to make sure you're making money.
Well, those Disney trips don't pay for themselves, and you can't build a house on your property like you're doing right now
No.
without your margins. It's kind of like the difference between having a job where you're killing yourself and actually building and growing a business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you got to work hard to, come to the top of, something for a legacy, leave it behind for your children or whatever you want to do. And that's why it's very vital to me to make sure that we're in a good position, because I would hope that one day my children would want to get involved in this, make it a second generation.
Yeah. Well, they're going to have it a lot easier than you had it when you started. I tell you that.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are.
Let's see. What results are you the most proud of so far that you've achieved? Looking back from the days when you were on the roof, pumping shingles up the roof to where you are right now, like what's been your most proud moment? And, I guess part two of that, what's next? Like you're not done. I know that you got a lot more that you want to do. So what are you proud of and what's next, Zach?
What I'm most proud of is that we were able to rope everybody in, again, with the help of your hand, get everybody on a proper system. So, you can step away from your company and still be a person too, right? So that was very vital. Overworking isn't always the result you need. So that was very vital, as well as, I mean, it's kind of cool, right? You got everybody working for you. They're working hard. You're providing jobs for their family. So as much as pressure it is, it's also motivational to know that everybody that's with you, their family's taken care of, right?
Yeah.
And in a small operation, it's hard not to care. So, so that's a very nice, cool thing. Like, you step back and look at it and you're like, man, all these people are, making a living, and all from the idea that you started and you built a business structure and plan, and it became successful, and it feels good.
Zach, I got to laugh just a little bit, man, because you do crack me up, the stuff that you say. Some of it mean to be funny, and other times I'm just laughing. But
Right.
calling yourself a small company, but how many companies are bigger? How many companies do more in revenue than you do in your town?
I
Like,
mean, not many, honestly, but my end goal is a little bit bigger than my short goal. So, that's where I'm kind of thinking on that. But
I
yeah,
mean, even if we stretched it out to the entire county, like there's not that many businesses that are doing better than you, right?
not when it comes to volume. No, I would say not. No, no, you know, maybe in the Cleveland market, you start getting into the bigger boys, like the private equity owners and stuff. Yeah, there might be some big fish in the pond out there. But yeah, there's definitely some big guys out there. But again, Mike, my long-term game is, I want to open another branch, as we said, in the Florida market, get into the South a little, where it's a little bit more consistent year round. Whereas in Ohio, it's more a seasonal opportunity. So that's kind of a long-term game too.
One more question for you, Zach.
Yes, sir.
I think you spilled a lot of good stuff today, gave a lot of insight on how you think about your business. Here it is. I'm going to read this one.
Okay.
If you could go back and talk to yourself before you started like this whole journey with me on consulting,
Yeah.
what would you have said to yourself beforehand?
Hire them faster.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, Mike, I mean, because it went through a phase that I wish I could have got you a little sooner. I've followed you around. I was in your RCO group, started tinkering around with it. And they're just, like I said, they got to a mind where I'm growing faster than I am as an owner, right? Like, dude, when you first start this, you don't think you're going to have all these people working for you one day. So you kind of get stuck too. Like, how do I handle this? How do I do this? How do I do that? So when you have someone like you and you ask for the help and they're willing to show you, you got to learn, right? So that was again where I was at. When you first start the business, it's sometimes trial and error, and unfortunately, you go to the school of hard knocks. Not everything is just an easy process, right? sometimes you get dinged over the head and it hurts. And that's really been a benefit to having you, kind of getting the system process. Because the bigger you go, right, you can't just have, 10 guys doing 10 different things, or it's going to make you fail. So you have to have a process. And again, it's been huge, man. Because before, when it was just me and a crew, well, I didn't really need a process because I knew what I told that person. I knew what to do on that job. I knew what to do. So I didn't really have to, hey, go nail this side. I'll show you what to do when you get over here. So it was a lot more on that regard. I didn't need a system, right? There wasn't 10 voices on one job, right? Where there's managers, crews, sales reps, the office calling. So that's where the communication will break you or make you. So that's where, again, the process really matters to me and the customer, honestly, because I feel like the communication's one of the hugest, most important factors, especially once you get past the just you involved on the job.
Well, you brought up a point there. You were successful before we started working together. You built your own location. You had a lot of really good equipment. You had a great salesperson.
Yeah,
I don't want to go this whole interview without mentioning Jesse and Chaz and how great they are. Fantastic people. And you had Harry, and
yeah.
then you've brought in other people. Like, you were very successful before we started working together.
Mhm.
And I think we've worked together and we've cleared the path for you to accelerate in your growth and, see what is possible. But Zach, you were already the man, dude.
Well, but the thing is, Mike, we can always become better, right? So, again, complacency is never the mentality I want, and that was something even that stuck with me as a young man when I was in football. That was our motto. Our football coach, shout out to him, Jason Root. He was a very good guy to me, very good mentor. And that was actually on our shirt, complacency skills, you
Hmm.
know. So we always went off that mentality. Don't settle for just you got to be better, right? You can always be better, whether it's you as an individual, the way you treat people, the way you're operating, there's always room to get better. So I've always been on that mindset since I was a 15-year-old boy. It was programmed into me,
Yeah,
you know.
well, it shows, man. It shows you've accomplished a lot, and I think there's a lot more left to go. Now,
Yeah.
Zach, if anybody's watched this interview all the way to the end and they're interested in your journey and maybe they want to connect with you, you've already connected with a lot of people in the RCO, great guys like Matt Collins, like
Yeah,
Rod,
great guy.
us out to the baseball game. You've met a lot
Yeah,
of great.
Rodney was a good guy too. Yeah, yeah, loved Rodney. Good person.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
if anybody wants to connect with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
I got Facebook, on my personal page, or even the RCO. I'm in that still. I still follow that up. There's always a lot of good sites, people speaking, and I like it, Mike, because you keep it clean. That's the biggest thing I like about your group, where a lot of other ones, you go in there and ask for help and they just ridicule you, and they just beat you down. So I've always respected you too for holding people to a standard of you're going to respect one another. So, that's how you grow, right? I just never understood that too in those other groups, especially like RCO. It's not like all those roofers are from the same neck of the woods, right? They're spread out through the United States.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out to the guys in the RCO. A lot of them are past clients and customers, active clients now. It's a really solid group of people, and I appreciate you giving us a pitch for that. But people, if they want to connect with you, they can connect with you on Facebook. They can reach
Yeah,
out to the RCO group, the private group on Facebook. Then, if they're ever in Cleveland, right,
yeah.
make a call. I know you like steak dinners.
Oh yeah. Don't we, Mike?
All right, man. Let's go ahead and tie off this interview. Zach, I appreciate you allowing me to ask some questions. I really appreciate you allowing me to be your consultant and go with you on this journey. I think that we're not even close to what you're going to accomplish. Got so much good stuff coming.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Let me turn off this Facebook thing. Say goodbye to
Okay.
everybody, and we'll keep our call going. Peace
All
out.
right.